Hello, and welcome to Marine Money's Funders and Founders series, where we talk to founders of prominent technology companies and startup darlings within the maritime industry. We will cover with these founders everything from their origin story to what makes their company or offering so unique and compelling to the shipping community. During this series, we'll also be interviewing funders of these new endeavors, what they look for in a company before investing, and emerging areas ripe for innovation and capital. More about that when we have our next funder on the show. My name is Jonathan Chair of Marine Money, and I will be your host throughout this series. If you have any questions, feedback, or thoughts for future episodes, please feel free to email me at jchair@marinemoney.com. But that's enough housekeeping for now. On to the main event. Today it is my great pleasure to have Friederike Hesse, the co-founder and managing director of zero44, on the show today. Now, I will let Friederike tell her story so I don't botch it, but what I will say is that zero44 is a company that provides a software and consulting solutions for the EU ETS and CII exposure, specifically the transferring of allowances and passing on their costs, managing EU union registry accounts, and allocating EU allowances in the accounts precisely. And coincidentally, this has been a fruitful couple of weeks for zero44 as they just closed their seed financing round, which included investors such as Flagship Founders, StartHub, and Bernhard Schulte, and have announced a partnership with Apps for a distribution of their product. So, Friederike, welcome to the show. What a whirlwind it's been for you.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And so the first question is an easy one. What on earth got you into the world of shipping?
I met with Flagship Founders in Berlin. So Berlin is not a maritime city, but Flagship Founders was founded there by a German ship owner and actually two venture capital guys from Berlin. And Flagship Founders works on starting new companies in the digital space in maritime. And when I met with them, they told me about the shipping industry, and I was intrigued immediately. And we started a company together.
Amazing. So tell me, so in 60 seconds, what exactly is it that zero44 does?
So what we do is we build digital solutions for ship owners, ship managers, charterers, technical managers to deal with carbon regulation. And the specific carbon regulation is the CII and EU ETS. And as you already explained, we help to understand the emission data, to build on this emission data by calculating CII ratings, by planning CII ratings. And currently we're developing the EU ETS product, which deals with all the matters around EU allowances, having them on the union registry, attaching those EUAs to your vessels, your voyages, your charterers, sharing the data and accounting all the costs and flows of money and certificates that go on.
Wow, that is quite a comprehensive and complex kind of set of objectives that you guys are trying to meet there. I mean, this must have been, years in the making. Can you kind of talk us through like how this all kind of unfolded, especially with new regulations rolling out?
So exactly, because of those regulations coming, kind of CII early this year and EU ETS next January, we were on a timeline, on a very tight timeline from the very beginning. So actually, it didn't take us years. We started the company last January. Wow. We released the MVP for the CII in July 22. And we want to release our EU ETS product in Q3 of this year. So we're actually constantly developing and releasing. I think our luck was that from the beginning, we had great development partners on board. So MPC Container Ships partnered with us early on the CII product. And now we're partnering again with MPC Container Ships, with Zeaborn Ship Management, and with Haran Group, three very different companies that all have different challenges in the EU ETS, and they help us develop a really good product, we hope.
And I guess, for our audience, to kind of boil it down super simply for them, like what is the pain point that you are solving for the industry, say a ship owner, charter, et cetera?
I think it's most obvious when we look at the emission trading scheme. So for an average vessel, 10 years old, handy-sized bulker, for example, this can be up to €1 million or more than €1 million in additional operational cost. This is a huge challenge. And not only do you have to manage that cost and try to hand it down to your charterers, and the charterers hand them down to cargo owners. Not only do you have to do that, but you also have to deal with the whole system. And the system says your technical manager, the DOC holder, is responsible, or you as the owner are responsible. The regulation also says the charterer might be the polluter in a time charter, so he might do the buying and paying for the certificates. So now you have to handle it all. You have to decide who's doing what. And once you've decided that, you have to change your contracts. And then you have to track and monitor everything, always based on the actual consumption data of the vessel and the actual emission data of the vessel. And we think you can't do that with a spreadsheet. The poor soul that is put on that spreadsheet just has a terrible job. And we really think a digital tool is needed that provides data safety or certainty about the data for every party involved, that allows for data sharing, and that allows for monitoring of due dates, for workflow management and all these things.
Great. And I guess, you talk about EU ETS, and it seems like it's a awfully complex, concept to like kind of wrap your head around, but also there's this obscurity around like who needs to do what, as you mentioned, with regards to the different parties. If I'm a ship owner, what is the key points that I need to like take away from this with regards to EU ETS?
You need to really understand the regulation and apply it to your own business model, because ship ownership is very different whether you operate a tanker and you have handed your tanker to a pool manager, or whether you have a bulk carrier and you operate the voyage charters yourself, or whether you time charter the container vessel out to a time charterer for 3 years. It's very different, and your contract partners are also very different. So first, I think you need to understand, what does this regulation mean for my business model? And then you need to talk to your business partners, to your charterers mainly, and ask them, okay, how do you look at this situation? Are you capable of dealing with this system? And we call it European, and it's for European voyages, but it affects all shipping people across the globe. So if I'm a small charterer in, say, Singapore, and just once in a year I send the vessel down to Rotterdam, I still have to enter into this system and understand all the things that need to go on. And we really think this is the challenge, and the ship owner should make sure, is my charterer fit to do this? Or if not, then I should take over, because the compliance risk, the penalty I might face is with me. So do understand the regulation, check in with your business partners, and if you think you can't handle it, then call us.
Fantastic. And I guess like during that whole process, have you witnessed like there's like key areas of like friction with regards to that negotiation, those like that collaboration maybe? Like where are there points of friction throughout that system or process?
I mean, now in the early days, one friction is that the parties are not equally prepared. So the level of information for everyone is very different. So there's a lot of education necessary before you can actually enter into an informed negotiation about how you want to handle things. So that's an early friction. A thing that's more complicated to solve is differences in data perception. So the whole EU ETS is based on noon report data or emissions data from the vessel. And usually owners and their technical managers have a system installed on the vessel where the crew reports the data from the vessel on a daily basis. Now, most in time charters, for example, charterers might have another system on the same vessel, and they get different data. So if you want to agree on who's doing what and how many certificates do we need, and you have conflicting data, that's a problem. So I think one thing the contract partners have to do, they have to look at their different data sources and understand the differences in data. And then the last point is, like always in shipping, the market goes like this. So the negotiation power moves between the two sides of the table, right?
Yeah.
And whoever has the better position tries obviously to optimize, which is natural. And this ETS is a layer on top in those already complicated negotiations.
Yes, no, that's completely fair. But it's always a little bit of fun kind of going back and forth. So that's
true.
So, you know, tell me about these the EU certificates, emission certificates. Like buying them, selling them. It seems like there's a whole market there. And actually, before you get started on that, we're going to actually put a little question into the audience, a little poll for them to fill out while you get started. But it's the question to the audience is, how knowledgeable are you with acquiring of carbon certificates and handling accounts in the union registry? So if you could do that quick answer, Frederike will kind of jump straight into the question.
Yeah, so EUAs, EU allowances, are actually emitted by the member states of the European Union. And the European Union as a whole agrees on how many certificates are being put into the marketplace. And the marketplace is the same not only for shipping, it's the airlines that fly into the European Union who have to buy emission certificates. It's stationary appliances like ThyssenKrupp, the big steel companies, and so on and so forth. Everyone who is a big emitter in the European Union needs to take part in that market. Then the member states emit or release these certificates, and then you can buy them at 2 stock exchanges, either in Germany at EEX in Leipzig or in London at ICE. And ICE is more the secondary trading on the emission certificates. EEX is the original marketplace where the member states auction the certificates off. Now, when you want to buy, you need to have access to these marketplaces as a compliance buyer. So as a shipping company who is required to buy these certificates, you can access the marketplace directly, however, only for spot trading. So if you want to have any kind of hedging situation, any kind of future, you actually need an intermediary who helps you do this at the marketplaces. So there are lots of carbon traders out there who can help you with this. It might be your bank, it might be your ship broker, it might be the commodity trader you have relationships with for your bunker trades, for example. And a group that we recommend is actually specialized carbon traders. So there's a group of smaller companies who have specialized on this marketplace for the last 15 years, when it was already in place for the other industries. And they really know how to deal with this rather complicated market. And they are able to have bespoke trading strategies also for smaller clients, because many of the larger traders, they don't care for those small volumes that shipping will have. Right. So these very specialized traders are actually a very good source. And then you order your certificates from your trader, and you don't get them on your bank account. You actually get them onto an account in the so-called union registry. That's a subsection of the Kyoto registry or accounting system dedicated to the European Union. And every compliance buyer, every shipping company can open a trading account there. And later you also have to open a so-called compliance account, where then at the due date, all the certificates need to be when you have to hand them in at the end of the calendar year. So once you trade, you get the certificates onto your trading account, and you have to monitor that account and then eventually shift it all to the compliance account, and then it's cleared off.
I see. And so that's where the hedging can be, where you kind of maybe over purchase and then you sort out your compliance, but then maybe resell to the marketplace. Is that how that would work?
Exactly. Or you can buy anytime, right? You have to. So for 24, the first time you have to hand them in is actually September 25. So it's 1.5 years where you learn about your emissions, but you could trade early and say, hey, maybe prices will rise, so I want to buy everything now. That might be true, that might be wrong. Or you want to have a specific price, because in your charter agreement, you need to agree with your charterer on an invoicing amount. So you want some certainty for your contract, right? So you might want to have a settlement price or a futures price or whatever. That's what I meant with bespoke trading strategies. Depending again on your business model and what contracts you have with your partners, how do you need to trade and have these allowances on your accounts?
I see. And these special carbon trading partners that you're talking about, is that is that somebody that you work with, or is that something that you guys will become in the future? How do you work with that?
So we can't be a carbon trader because we don't have the necessary MiFID license. It's a highly regulated thing, and you need to have the licenses in place to do this. Plus, we really think, especially now in the beginning of it all for shipping, it's good to rely on experience. And we, as a young digital startup, wouldn't have that experience. So what we do is actually what we've already done, we've scanned the market, we've talked to almost all the suppliers out there to get a feeling of whom we would love to partner with. And we've selected this carbon trader group to partner with, but we can't take the choice of who shall be the trading partner away from our customer. They need to have the relationship with the trading partner. So we are open to all kinds of relationships, but we recommend or we can give recommendations if our customers want to. And what we try, once our customer has decided for a trading partner, we try to integrate that into our software product, because the data stream would break. The trading partners, what you do, you call them, and then you have 15 minutes to accept the offer, right? And then you get an invoice and you pay, and then you get your certificates. It's all digital. It's not in your accounting system. It's a completely different, data set. So what we try to build is a software integration where you can actually click on order now, and then in the background, we will send this order to a trading partner. So that's the basic idea. And we're still figuring out how exactly we will do this, but that's the idea.
That's amazing. I mean, giving that option to ship owners is incredible, especially with the ability to have the guidance of hey, these guys are the ones that we recommend based on their expertise and track record, etc. So that's amazing. So I guess if I'm a ship owner and I already have a carbon reduction strategy, whether it be investing in new buildings, slow steaming, retrofits, or maybe I just don't care at all about the whole environmental ESG thing, and maybe I've decided I'm no longer going to trade with the EU, which would be a big call. But now EU ETS comes into play. How does that change the carbon emission strategy or position for these companies? And I guess before you get started, we have another question for the audience, just to kind of get a gauge as to exactly where they stand. So make sure that you select all the options that appear to you, and you'll be given the answer from the rest of the audience as they fill it out. But so Frederike, so what do I do now as a ship owner? What options do I have?
I mean, the first thing you should do is you should, from your existing business, calculate your EU ETS exposure. And what do I mean by that? So how many vessels of your fleet are actually currently trading into the EU? And what do they emit on these trades? And if I translate that with current market prices into ETS cost, how much is that? And it can be a lot of money. And it's actually operational expenditure. So it's not, the CII might impact the value of your vessel in the future, maybe not, depending on supply and demand for that kind of vessel, So it's all kind of far away, and I might not care. And shipping is kind of, they like to do things at the last minute, right? But this is operational cost coming for sure. And if I don't have these allowances, I get a €100 penalty per ton of CO2, plus I have to pay the market price. So it's, if I don't act, I double the cost burden. So understand your exposure, and then really think about how can I reduce this cost? Because obviously, yes, the first thing you try is you pass it on to your charterers, you pass it on, and they pass it on. But the competitive position of a vessel that emits a lot in European Union waters is worse than the competitive position of a very modern vessel that is more efficient and emits less in European waters. So I would think you should look at your fleet, and if you want to trade into the European Union, send your most efficient vessels into the European Union. And if you're thinking about new builds and investments, do a return on investment bearing the EU ETS cost in mind, right? So adding that to your calculation. It might make a new build into something more efficient, more modern, more worthwhile than last year when the ETS wasn't there. Or it might make retrofits more worthwhile, and so on. So I think it's such a big cost block that enters into the calculation that I think it will waken up the industry if they want to trade into the European Union.
Right, right. It's a relatively large stick that just got added to the arsenal. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and I actually know a question I forgot to ask was the pricing of these carbon certificates. Have they been trending up? Like how much do they fluctuate? Is it kind of like, you know, Bitcoin and the fact that like it's going up and down constantly? What's the nature of the pricing?
It's a complicated market because on the one hand it's regulated, so it's called cap and trade system. So the member states of the European Union by releasing those certificates, they control the supply of the market with the cap, right? And what they are planning to do in the future is to lower the cap, so to decrease supply of carbon certificates. And then the demand side is on the one hand, obviously the compliance buyers who need these things and will buy them, but there's also a lot of speculation going on. So there's professional traders out there who have discovered this market and said, okay, that's a nice market to speculate on and make some money with. So you have regulation plus speculation plus compliance cycles where certain due dates will trigger certain buy activities and so on. And then the overall commodity pricing space also has a huge impact on CO2.
Right.
And overall, the prices have increased tremendously. So in 22, actually, the price has risen from 60 euros per ton to 100 euro per ton. When, for example, the Ukraine war started, you saw a drop in price of 30, 40 euros. And you see fluctuations that even the most proficient traders can't explain in advance that might just happen. So it's you should seek professional support from those carbon traders.
Fair enough. That is great advice. So I guess getting a little bit back to where 044 is, can you tell us a little bit about business growth, investment cycle? I know that I mentioned that you guys just closed your seed round. Would love to hear more about that. If you have anything that you can share about, you know, where the business is at.
Yeah, sure. So as I said, founded last January and started with development partners. We turned those development partners into paying customers. So we have first revenues coming into the company, which is always very important for founders. And now, as I said, we are focusing a lot on building this complicated EU ETS product, where we obviously don't make revenue from yet. And this is one of the main reasons why we needed this funding round now. So we collected 2.5 million euros of funding now in a seed round, and we will use this money to invest into engineering capacity to build the product and into ramping up our sales team and customer support team to be able to onboard customers and help them. And we plan, as I said, to release the ETS product Q3 and then really acquire more and more customers when the regulation starts in January. And we expect we expect a lot of activity in the second half of this year and then early next year.
That's a really great like kind of runway and trajectory for you and your team. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time that we have. So I wanted to thank you, Frederike, for coming on the show and talking to us about everything that you're doing. And you know, good luck with like the evolving environment and like the business trajectory that you're on. It just seems like such a adventure that you're on. So congratulations again.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
And I wanted to quickly thank the audience for tuning in. Remember, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Once again, my email is jcheer@marinemoney.com. And at the end of this video, we'll have a quick form to fill out if you want Frederike to reach back out to you with regards to any further questions that you might have about anything that we discussed today. Until then, this is John Cheer from Marine Money, and I thank you for tuning in, and we will see you for the next episode of Marine Money's Funders and Founders. Thank you very much.